Decision-making is often seen as a burden because the mind is constantly caught in conflict, trying to choose between one thing and another. But the very idea of choice exists only when there is confusion. A clear mind does not choose. It simply sees what is true and follows it. The mind that is clouded by desires, fears, and conditioning finds itself trapped in indecision, not because the right choice is difficult, but because the mind itself is divided. Freedom is not in choosing between two options, but in seeing clearly, without interference from the past or anxiety about the future. The idea that making a decision gives freedom is an illusion. Real freedom comes when decisions are no longer a struggle, when life moves naturally without conflict. Most people do not make decisions out of awareness, but out of habit, social conditioning, or fear. The need to make a decision often arises from the pressure of time and the mind's urgency to seek security. But security itself is an illusion because life is constantly changing. When one makes a decision, it should not be based on what feels comfortable or familiar, but on deep understanding. If a decision is based on fear of failure or attachment to temporary pleasure, it is not a real decision. It is an escape. The mind tends to choose comfort over truth, temporary pleasure over long-term growth, because struggle appears painful. The tendency to avoid struggle is natural, but struggle itself is not suffering. It is the process of transformation. A student may choose entertainment over studying because entertainment gives instant pleasure, while studying demands patience and effort. But if the student truly sees the significance of learning, then studying is no longer a burden. It becomes an effortless movement. Recognizing passion is not about excitement or enthusiasm, but about a deep connection with something that does not fade. Passion is not found by searching for it. It is realized when the mind is silent and sees clearly. Many people chase desires believing them to be passions, but desires are momentary, influenced by society, comparison, and personal insecurities. To see if something is a real passion, one must observe whether it persists even when difficulties arise. A musician who truly loves music does not abandon it when faced with struggle. The joy of music itself is enough, independent of success or failure. But a person who pursues music for fame and recognition will drop it when difficulties come, because the passion was not real. It was only a means to an end. Understanding the difference between desire and necessity requires deep observation. Desire is a projection of the mind, a longing for something that one believes will bring happiness. Necessity, however, is what is essential for growth and well-being. Many chase wealth thinking it is a necessity, but wealth itself is not the source of contentment. Understanding oneself is. A person may desire luxury, but what they truly need is inner peace. The mind confuses desires with needs because it is conditioned to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But pain is not the enemy. It is a teacher. Those who escape struggle in search of comfort never grow, while those who embrace the necessary struggles of life transform themselves. The tendency to choose short-term pleasure over long-term success comes from the mind's impatience. The mind seeks immediate results because it is afraid of uncertainty. A person who starts exercising may give up within a week because the results are not immediate. But if they persist, transformation happens naturally. The mind resists struggle because it perceives it as suffering, but struggle only becomes suffering when it is resisted. When there is acceptance, struggle becomes a path to strength. The future is uncertain, and the mind constantly tries to predict what might happen if one chooses one path over another. But the future is not to be feared or calculated. It is to be seen with clarity. If a decision is made based on fear, it will always lead to regret. But if it is made with deep understanding, even if it leads to difficulties, those difficulties become learning experiences rather than obstacles. Living in the present does not mean being indifferent to the future. It means acting with full awareness in the now, without being trapped by fear of what will come. A person who makes decisions based on deep understanding does not worry about the future because their action is rooted in clarity. Letting life unfold naturally does not mean being passive. It means being so aware that action arises spontaneously without hesitation. A sharp decision is one that comes from complete clarity, not from confusion or external pressure. And even if a decision turns out to be incorrect, there is no shame in changing direction. A wise person is not afraid of retreating from a short-term decision if it no longer aligns with understanding. A mind that truly sees does not struggle with decisions, it moves naturally. When there is no attachment to results, when fear does not control actions, when awareness replaces confusion, then decision-making is no longer a burden. It becomes effortless. The problem is not in making decisions, but in seeing clearly. When the mind is free of conflict, every decision is right because it comes from deep understanding rather than compulsion.